Hello everyone. Today I'm sharing a story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty and the masks people wear. What happens when the person who claims to love you is actually just collecting your shame? I didn't apologize because I was wrong. I apologized because they wanted to own my shame. I apologized because Evelyn made me believe that my tears were proof of my instability. For 3 years, I lived in a digital cage. Every time I slipped up, every time I stood up for myself, there was a camera. And there was a demand. Apologize, Elena. Record it. Show us your learning. They think they have the receipts. They think they have the proof that I am the broken one. But they forgot one thing. I'm the one who knows how to use the files. The Sterling household was a masterpiece of curated perfection. White marble, silk curtains, and a silence so thick you could choke on it. My husband, Julian, sat at the head of the table, his eyes never leaving his plate. And then, there was Evelyn. She sat opposite me, her pearls gleaming under the chandelier like tiny, cold teeth. Elena, darling. You're being very quiet tonight. Are you feeling ungrounded again? We discussed this. You need to work on your presence. I felt the familiar sting. The gaslighting wasn't a blow, it was a slow drip of acid. I hadn't even spoken. But in this house, my silence was interpreted as instability. Julian, my husband, my partner. He didn't defend me. He managed me. Like a volatile asset. He looked at me with pity, and that pity was more violent than any scream. Of course. We wouldn't want another incident. Perhaps a video check-in tomorrow? Just to ensure you're staying on track with your progress. It started with small things. A video apology for forgetting a social engagement. A video for raising my voice when Evelyn insulted my family. But it grew. It became a requirement for my continued presence in their lives. They called it accountability. I called it psychological warfare. Chin up, Elena. You look defensive. You're not actually sorry, are you? If you aren't sorry, the video is useless. Start again. From the top. And try to look repentant. I stared into that little black lens. It felt like an eye. A judging, unblinking eye. I felt my throat tighten. My eyes burned. I wasn't just performing an apology, I was performing the death of my own dignity. I am sorry, Evelyn. I am sorry for my outbursts. I am sorry for the stress I caused the family. I will do better. As soon as the light went out, I felt the hollow ache in my chest. I didn't know then that Evelyn was already uploading it. I didn't know she was adding it to the growth folder. A digital trophy room of my brokenness. But I was starting to notice things. The way Julian would check his phone when I cried. The way Evelyn's eyes would light up when I finally broke. They weren't watching me heal. They were watching me drown. The Sterling Foundation Gala. The pinnacle of the social season. Everyone who mattered was there. And Evelyn. Evelyn had planned something special. She called it a tribute to resilience. A celebration of how much I had grown under their guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, please. We all know that growth is not a straight line. It is a journey of mistakes and corrections. I want to share a glimpse of the journey my daughter-in-law, Elena, has taken. To show you the strength it takes to admit when you are wrong. The giant screen at the front of the ballroom flickered to life. And there I was. On screen. A montage of my most broken moments. Me, sobbing in the dressing room. Me, trembling as I recited my scripted apologies. The room was silent, but I could feel the eyes. The judgment. The pity. It was a public execution of my dignity. Evelyn stood there, smiling, her hand on Julian's arm. They were showing the world my shame as if it were a trophy. I stood in the center of the room, the light from the screen washing over me like a shroud. I felt small. I felt exposed. But then, something shifted. In the middle of the shame, I felt a cold, sharp clarity. They had given me everything I needed. They had handed me the weapon. They just didn't realize I was the one holding the remote. The ballroom went from stunned silence to a roar of scandal. The screen didn't show my shame anymore. It showed theirs. It showed the coaching, the manipulation, the insurance they were building against me. The mask of the perfect Sterling family hadn't just slipped. It had shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I simply walked to the tech booth. I had spent weeks preparing for this. I had bypassed their security. I had replaced their tribute with the truth. The screen flickered. The image of my crying face vanished. And then, the real footage began. Do it again, Elena. Cry harder. If you don't look broken, they won't believe you're improving. Julian, make sure she feels the guilt. We need this video for the archive. It's our insurance. She's starting to suspect, Mother. Why do we keep these? Let her suspect. By the time she realizes, we'll have enough to make her look insane to anyone who listens. Now, get the camera. The reversal was instantaneous. The people who had been looking at me with pity were now looking at Evelyn with horror. The social elite of this city live for two things, status and scandal. And in 1 minute, Evelyn had lost both. She stood there, frozen, her face turning a ghostly, pale white. Julian. Julian looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. He reached for me, his hand trembling. Elena. Please. We can explain. It was just a way to manage the family image. I stepped back. I didn't just step back, I recoiled, as if his very touch was toxic. I looked him in the eye, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel the need to apologize for his existence. Don't. You're not managing an image, Julian. You're managing a crime. And the world just saw the footage. The vultures were circling. The reporters, the socialites, the photographers. They weren't interested in the Sterling Foundation anymore. They were interested in the Sterling scandal. Evelyn tried to speak, to command the room, but her voice was lost in the tide of judgment. She was no longer the matriarch. She was the predator caught in the light. The fallout was total. The Sterling Foundation lost its funding within a week. Evelyn was forced into a private retreat, a polite way of saying social exile. Julian tried to fight the divorce, but his lawyers realized that the evidence I released was more than just social suicide, it was evidence of coercive control. It was enough to ensure I walked away with everything I was owed. I sat in my new home, a place that smelled of nothing but fresh paint and freedom. No more cameras. No more scripted apologies. No more walking on eggshells in a house of marble and lies. They thought they were building a cage. They didn't realize they were building my staircase. I looked at the headlines on my tablet. The Sterling scandal, a dynasty unraveled. It was a beautiful sight. For the first time in years, I could breathe without permission. But there is one thing the headlines didn't mention. One thing I didn't include in the gala reveal. One file that stays on my private drive, encrypted and hidden. It's a recording from the night before the gala. It's not of Evelyn or Julian. It's a recording of me, talking to myself, in the dark, planning every single second of their destruction. They thought I was the victim. They thought I was the one being broken. They were right about one thing. I did learn how to perform. I just didn't tell them that my greatest performance was the woman they thought they had conquered. And that's the story. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back soon with more incredible stories that will keep you up at night. Join me again next time for another tale of secrets, lies, and redemption.